all of the risk has been stripped off the asset. Like, you pretty much know Wall Street's going to embrace it. The U.S. government's going to embrace it.
What is going to win in the next few years? How do we make money out of this?
Bitcoin is still our favorite idea for this year.
So Michael Saylor, Tom Lee, and Raoul Pal just gave updates on the crypto market and whether or not we have a massive buying opportunity on our hands and whether or not these assets will give life-changing returns in the near future. So let's dive into what's going on with these assets and what these three just said. First up, Michael Saylor.
This is kind of a historic entry point because all of the risk has been stripped off the asset. Like, you pretty much know Wall Street's going to embrace it, the U.S. government's going to embrace it, and banks in the U.S. going to embrace it, which means that all the other banks will embrace it. You already know all those things, and yet the market is really skittish based upon concerns about tariffs, the disposition of the U.S. economy, the interest rate forward graph. And so you see the interest rates have pulled in 30, 40, 50 basis points, and we're in this macro risk off zone. When that flips, I think Bitcoin will rip forward with a vengeance.
So what he's speaking to is what we cover on this channel a lot, which is why assets are falling. Well, we actually know exactly why assets are falling. It all has to do with global liquidity and money supply. Crypto assets are extremely sensitive to moves in global liquidity, and it makes sense. They're extremely liquid assets. So when the money supply goes up, money pours into these assets, which have low liquidity currently, and it causes them to skyrocket. And so this chart literally says everything about what is going on with these assets. In blue, we see the price of Bitcoin. In green and red, we see global liquidity. And so what we've been in for the last 3 years is the longest contraction of global liquidity in Bitcoin's history and crypto's history. So the people back here that made life-changing returns investing in crypto did not have to wait as long as we do. Now that gives us more time to stack revolutionary assets. And so all we have to figure out in the meantime is, are the fundamentals now as good as they were back here when these people made massive life-changing returns in crypto, getting in while the charts were low? And so Michael Saylor is talking about how Bitcoin will skyrocket once the liquidity situation changes, which it obviously will. Because when the global liquidity situation changes and starts moving up like it did back here, Bitcoin goes from 3,000 to 69,000. Same with back here. Bitcoin goes from a few $100s to $20,000. That's what happens. That is what we're waiting for. And we're long overdue for a move like that. So which assets will absolutely skyrocket when Michael Saylor's Bitcoin prediction comes true and it skyrockets? Well, let's see which assets are correlated to Bitcoin. Here's the chart of Bitcoin over the last month. Down 11%. ICP correlated. Down 15%. Now, these assets may be in the midst of a rally, of a short squeeze rally. That's obviously going to happen in circumstances like this, especially when we're this oversold. Chainlink down 24%. Part of that is probably because Chainlink Labs just unlocked some tokens and dumped them on the market. That's how the entire crypto space works. That's how Bitcoin worked. There was a lot of inflation early on, and it did cause some volatility and selling pressure. That's what we're seeing in Chainlink. Obviously, if it underperforms on the downside, it's likely to outperform on the upside, like it always does. And then TAO down 27%. But what we notice in all these charts is that they're making the same pattern. They're all correlated. So when this line goes up, these altcoins should absolutely skyrocket. So it's literally a waiting game at this point. Let's see what Raoul Pal and Tom Lee say about this situation.
So I just want to cover where we are today.
This incoming administration, I think, is doing things that look very disruptive at the moment, but I think structurally are really positive because it's a path for U.S. deficit to normalize. And I think animal spirits are coming back, even though things like these consumer confidence reports don't show it. And we know that there are tangible drivers of productivity, including AI, in front of us that justify investors allocating capital. And of course, there's still plenty of disruption ahead, including crypto. And, I think Bitcoin is still our favorite idea for this year. So we think it'll be the best performing asset class, even better than gold. As you know, in the rest of the world actually has a depletion of population. And so that's creating the demand for AI workers, which is what the US tech companies are producing. So I think that this does feel like it's going to be a very bullish equity cycle ahead. And that's why we're constructive. And it's been a rough start for this year, but I think we're just sort of getting through some of the kinks and burning off some of the recent bullishness.
Yeah, I'm the same. We get the over optimism about Trump, then we get the correction until we get the actual news story.
Both of them believe that this is a short-term correction. And both of them understand this chart. Again, it all goes back to global liquidity. There is no way that we will get alt season until this line moves. And so the big question is, when will liquidity pour back in? Tom Lee is saying that we're dealing with some short-term pain and expect massive returns later in the year. And Raoul Pal is saying the exact same thing. The question is, when will these assets turn around and provide life-changing returns? Well, we talked about how correlated these assets are to Bitcoin, TAO, ICP, and Chainlink. Very correlated. In fact, they underperformed to the downside and massively outperformed to the upside, which we've covered on this channel. And so what is Bitcoin correlated to? Global M2. In blue, we see the price of Bitcoin. In green, we see global M2 liquidity. So I showed you the big long-term chart. This is the very short-term chart. So in green, we see the forward projection of global M2 money supply, right? Global liquidity. And in blue, we see the price of Bitcoin again. Now, what we see according to this chart and this model is that the price of Bitcoin in blue is tumbling with global money supply. So the current administration is taking liquidity out of the system. They want to defeat inflation, reduce the money supply so that interest rates can come down. That's going to unleash the floodgates of capital into the world and ultimately the crypto world. And so we're seeing, according to all known trends currently, is a massive projected uptick in global M2 money supply. Now that massive up move is expected sometime in April. This chart is rock solid. The correlation is almost perfect. So what we can expect is more short-term pain from this administration, followed by a massive injection of liquidity. So it really doesn't get bigger than this if you have the patience to buy high-quality assets like ICP, TAO, Chainlink. Those are the big three. That's what we cover all the time on this channel. They're obviously the most undiscovered, and we're only about making life-changing returns. So we focus on the undiscovered altcoins like those three, but it's a waiting game. It is waiting for that green line to go up. And that is just the very beginning, the tip of the iceberg. So the government is just, again, what they're saying is causing short-term pain to bring liquidity down before they ultimately skyrocket liquidity. Absolutely massive. Now let's dive into more brand new updates from Raoul Pal and Tom Lee.
You and I are obviously thinking through the AI in the same way. We're about to produce infinite workers. AI and robots is infinite human intelligence and infinite humans, right? I mean, this completely breaks the economic model. We have no understanding what this is going to do. How do you pick through what is going to win in the next few years? Because, yeah, sure, we can, sure, Microsoft will do fine, et cetera, but how do we make money out of this? And it's not very clear yet with AI outside of NVIDIA and a few other stocks, how to really make money out of this, out of robotics. A lot of these kind of exponential age technologies, pretty tricky because not much around. There's pretty slim pickings because there's been no IPO market for bloody forever.
You just described it. AI is infinite workers with PhD qualifications.
Today. Don't forget, in 2 years' time.
Yeah, it'll be super intelligent, right?
Super intelligence. So something we've never had before.
Correct. And yet, these super intelligent entities have to eat pizza. And what I mean by that is like the best performing stock in the last 25 years is Domino's Pizza because everybody has to eat. So if you could find the pizza of the AI worker, so that's not the infrastructure, it's what you have to feed the worker. That's another moneymaker. And I don't know what that is going to be.
So I've got two thoughts on that. Obviously, one is the energy flywheel, right? If you're feeding AI, it's going to be probably something to do with the energy mix and how that's delivered and what. And I don't know, again, because the energy grid is going to get reconstructed and changed anyway. The other one that I've come up with is we are so digital now. We're going to become more digital. Our roles in whatever a workforce is or the economy is going to change. But tomorrow will be more digital than today. That is a fact. And that is not going to stop for the rest of our lifetimes.
So they're scratching their head trying to figure out the best way to invest in AI. And so what we do on this channel is try to find the most undiscovered assets, the assets that will provide life-changing returns. And the best way to get life-changing returns is being early to a mega trend. AI is the biggest mega trend of technology humanity has ever seen. So which assets are going to benefit massively and skyrocket due to this mega trend? Well, like Raoul Pal said, the world's moving more digital. So let's dive into 3 digital assets, the big 3, Chainlink, TAO, and ICP, and how they are massive mega plays on this mega trend. First up, TAO. Here's the Bittensor ecosystem. The way Bittensor works is there's a whole bunch of different subnets. They had like 40 or 50 a few months ago. Now they have 70 and growing. And then so that number is just going to continue to accelerate. And each of these subnets is like to TAO what a Bitcoin miner is to Bitcoin. Miners earn Bitcoin. These subnets earn TAO. And so a lot of these subnets, of which there are many, are earning tens of millions of dollars per year. And it's a purely free market approach at this point. So the subnets that are the most valuable, according to the free market, are going to attract the most TAO, because TAO holders decide where the TAO emissions flow. Incredible use case of the TAO token. And so these subnets are making tens of millions of dollars. Here's just one quick glimpse into what is going on with the Bittensor ecosystem, right? Just a massive amount of these subnets. And guess what? This is revolutionary. Daily volume on TAO subnets. There's more and more and more capital flooding into these subnets. The more volume in these subnets, the more valuable, the more activity, the more capital. So what Bitcoin is to money, TAO is to AI. It's decentralized AI. Right now, TAO is emitting something like $1 billion of revenue per year to these subnets. What happens as that increases? What happens as the global liquidity increases? These altcoins start to outperform Bitcoin. The value of TAO goes up. The value of TAO emissions goes up and hits in the billions of dollars. Now we're creating the best technology on the planet, and these subnets are primed to create the best technology on the planet, which we covered. So the TAO ecosystem is one of the best bets on artificial intelligence we've ever seen. That's why Barry Silbert, who's a multi-billionaire from buying Bitcoin at $10, said that fact, TAO is going to eat the AI world. Barry Silbert, again, multi-billionaire. He owns Grayscale, which was the biggest Bitcoin ETF. He owns the biggest Bitcoin miner, and now he's going big into TAO, right? Lots going on behind the scenes. That's what's going on. So Raoul Pal and Tom Lee trying to figure out ways to invest in AI. TAO is one way. What about Chainlink? Well, let's hear from the man himself, Sergey Nazarov, the head of Chainlink.
So I think there's 2 key ways that Chainlink dons can interact with AI. One way is to interface with individual AI models as a single source of inputs into smart contracts. Now, Chainlink began by aggregating many data sources about market data and feeding that verified, aggregated, cleaned, reliable market data into the DeFi system and into the DeFi smart contract world, which is what created the reliability that allowed DeFi to grow from a sub 100 million industry to an over 200 billion industry. If you have an AI model that's reliable enough to control value, has a minimum of hallucinations, you want to give it control over a smart contract, Chainlink can enable that AI model to control that smart contract on a multitude of different chains, and even enable that AI model to control smart contracts on multiple chains. But if you're in a situation where you're thinking that the AI model can give good responses, but there is some risk that you're not comfortable with, that it might still hallucinate, it might give the wrong response. One of the unique things that Chainlink can do is it can aggregate the results of multiple AI models. This is one of the unique things that Chainlink can do, and it's what it's already done. And in doing it, it's enabled the processing of over $11.5 trillion in transaction value for other types of data. And if you view AI models as a source of inputs and data, I think it's directly applicable to them.
What he's saying is that Chainlink will secure artificial intelligence. That's how big Chainlink is. It's already securing trillions of dollars of value, right? Chainlink has enabled 19 plus trillion dollars of value as of 2024. That's growing exponentially. It has massive, massive, massive partnerships, the biggest financial institutions in the world. And so like Raoul Pal is saying, the world is moving more and more digital. AI is digital. Chainlink is the glue that's holding the future financial system together based on its massive partnerships. Therefore, Chainlink will secure the new digital AI world. It is a massive, massive asset. That's what Sergey Nazarov is alluding to. Now, what about ICP? ICP is a world computer. It is not competing with Chainlink. It is not competing with TAO because Chainlink doesn't have a blockchain. It connects different blockchains together. So when we're looking at blockchains to invest in, ICP stands out as the clear winner. Why does ICP stand out as the clear winner? Because ICP can do what other blockchains can only aspire to doing one day. Other blockchains are blockchains. ICP is a world computer. As we cover on this channel, ICP generates more revenue per user than any other blockchain on the planet. It is the most profitable asset because users of ICP, developers of ICP, have to pay ICP for its computational power. Solana doesn't have on-chain computational power or data storage. That's why the internet computer over the last 7 days earned $314,000 in revenue. That's beating Optimism, which has WorldCoin, and Coinbase building on it. That's beating Arbitrum. That's beating Immutable X. That's beating Ton, which is Telegram's blockchain. These other assets don't generate enough revenue per user to be massively profitable. What does profitability look like? It looks like a deflationary ICP because the more ICP is used, the more ICP tokens are burnt. That's how the network earns its revenue. It makes the token scarcer and scarcer. That's why ICP went deflationary several times in 2024 in the middle of a crypto winter. So that's what ICP is. That's why it stands apart from other blockchains. How is it a bet on AI? Well, obviously a global world distributed supercomputer has its place in the new digital economy. This is from Dominic Williams. How caffeine generates self-writing apps. This is the future of ICP. App users pay app owners. The app owner speaks to the world computer, which has AI agents that create code. From the voice of the app owner comes code created by AI, right? So the app owner within 20 seconds can write new code, build and deploy software, safely migrate data, and make the updates visible to the app users. And that's all happening on the world computer. It's only possible on ICP. Again, ICP is generating over 700,000 Ethereum equivalent transactions per second. Ethereum cannot process 700,000 Ethereum equivalent transactions per second. So in the digital world, we want the highest quality assets on the planet. We want to own a global supercomputer that's generating massive amounts of revenue per user and that has some of the most revolutionary AI technology on the planet built into it, right? All that matters with the internet computer is the on-chain fundamentals. They are booming. The technology is booming, even in the midst of this crypto downturn. So in a nutshell, Michael Saylor says, buy the dip. These assets are going to absolutely skyrocket. He's a multi-billionaire investor. Raoul Pal, Tom Lee also believe these assets are going to absolutely skyrocket later in the year. And this is backed up by the liquidity situation.